Hey!
Hey!
Hey, shut up with the noise!
Hey, shut up with the shut up!
Hey everybody, welcome back to Trey's Models. Hope everybody's doing awesome. We're going to spin off into something a little different for the channel this time and jump into some Italian aircraft with the Regia Aeronautica. Now, guys, you're going to have to cut me some slack with the pronunciations of these Italian words, and I'll do the best I can struggling through. I struggle with English, so cut me some slack. So this is the Savoy Marchetta SM-79 Sparviero, which is Italian for Sparrowhawk. It first flew 28 September 1934, and between 37 and 39 it set several world speed records. Now the first action it saw was during the Spanish Civil War, and the SM-79 served in all the fronts that Italy was involved with during World War II. It was most famous for its torpedo bombing capability, and it earned the nickname, and again I'm going to struggle with the pronunciation, of Gobbo Maledetto, which I guess loosely translates as damned hunchback. But it was well liked by the crews. Around 1,300 were built, and it remained in service up in late 1950s with the Italians, and then if I remember right, the Libyans had a couple that served up until 1958, but they were the very late models. There was also a twin-engine version that was imported to Hungary. For the interior, I scored some old Edward photo etch upgrades. These were for the smear kit, and they are ancient, but they still are pretty good for an upgrade for the interior. Did a dry fit on it. Everything looked promising. Moved on to starting the detailing. There wasn't a lot of ejector pin marks just on the door, and we're leaving that closed, but I went ahead and filled them in. You can upgrade this thing with as much as you want. If you leave the door open, you will see a little bit more of the detail, but with the door shut, it's pretty much a moot point. But as modelers, we all accept this and do the best we can with it. We know it's in there, right? So painted everything up with enamels, came back with some washes. They were Army Painter acrylic based washes, and that was pretty much it. Sealed everything up. Fit was really nice. Everything went together really smoothly on the interior. Alright, up front in the office with the yokes, I saw pictures of these yokes both ways, with them facing with the round side up and with the other side up. I couldn't tell which way they were supposed to go, so I just took a guess and slapped them in there. If anybody knows for real how these things are supposed to go, please let me know in the comments. On to the power plants, which were the Alfa Romeo radial engines. The trumpeter kit engines are really pretty good. I added some detail to them, made some brass rings to go around the outside of the cylinder heads, and made some intake tubes, painted them base black, and then came back and highlighted them and picked out some silver details, which you can see in the pictures. It's a really good detail for straight out of the box with just some simple stuff added to it. And onto the fuse, everything went together really nicely. There were no fit issues with this at all. The wings sit and the saddle's really nice. A little smear of putty on the bottom, I think, was all it took to clean this thing up, and it was ready for some paint. The SM-79 Sparviero fuselage was welded tubular steel, covered with duraluminum. On the top it was covered with plywood. The aft section was fabric coated. The wings were completely made out of wood. The engines on the early version were three 780 horsepower Alfa Romeo 126 RC34 with the top speed of 270 miles an hour at 13,940 feet. Usual armament was 12.7 Beretta Safat machine guns. Also two 7.7 Lewis guns in the waist guns positions. They were later replaced by 7.7 or 303 Berettas. Now the waist gun positions were pretty tight, and from what I've read there was usually only one guy back there because two of them would get in the way of each other. Now what made this aircraft so devastating was the torpedoes that it carried, and unlike what you see pictured here with two of them, they usually only carried one. Now the Whitehead torpedo was 17.9 foot long, weighed 1,930 pounds, and had an explosive charge of 374.5 pounds. Now the weight of the torpedo reduced the performance of the aircraft so much that they usually only carried one. I can't find any actual documentation of them carrying two, but it looked cool in the pictures, and that's the way the kit was, so that's the way I built it. But in all actuality, it probably only carried one. In this picture here, you can see the aircraft that I modeled it after from 193 Squadron, Sicily, 1940 to 1941. And you can see just off the left wing of 190-6, got one with kind of a different paint scheme on it, which I thought was kind of interesting. The SM-79-3 specs were as follows. The length was 53 foot 2 inches. The wingspan was 63 foot 3 inches. With a power plant of three Alfa Romeo 128 RC18 radial engines rated at 860 horsepower each, given a max speed of 286 miles an hour at 12,450 foot, and it had a service ceiling of 24,600 feet. Alright everybody, that wraps up this video. I really appreciate y'all watching, and please hit that like button and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Y'all be good to each other.